College Press Box, Texas football gets their first win in Big 12 play.
Texas soccer takes on Texas Tech in West Virginia, and Texas volleyball heads out on the road.
All this and more coming up on College Press Box. Good evening and welcome to tonight's episode of College Press Box. I'm your host, Loana Solis, and joining me tonight is Cooper Irwin. Cooper, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Loana. Had a good weekend watching football?
Yes, definitely. It was a good win for Texas this weekend against Kansas.
Definitely. It was good to see Texas shut out the Jayhawks 23-0. Although it was a bit ugly, a win is a win, and it was good to see Charlie Strong get his first win in Big 12 play.
Speaking of Strong, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell spent the weekend in Austin. Saturday, he visited the headquarters of the National Domestic Violence Hotline. He also met with Strong on Sunday to discuss Strong's core values on players' integrity. Strong is making headlines for his dismissal of multiple players who have violated his policies. Goodell has been in hot waters for not handling domestic abuse situations very well, and he met with Strong to get some insight on how to deal with those issues.
All right. Okay, let's look at the highlights Texas football had in their game against Kansas. Start to Jimmy Mundine, 35 yards for the completion, but the Texas D steps up. Quandre Diggs gets the tip drill pick in the end zone. Texas would take over. Then it is Tyrone Swoops rolling out of the pocket, finds MJ McFarland back of the end zone for the touchdown. Texas leads 6-0. Then Cozart finds Nigel King for 26 yards over the middle, but the Texas defense would step up. Duke Thomas gets the pick, runs it back 26 yards, one of two picks Thomas had on the day. Then Tyrone Swoops breaking out of the pocket, running to the corner of the end zone, breaks a tackle in there for the touchdown. Texas leads 13-0. Cozart finds Tony Pearson over the middle for 16 yards. But again, the Texas D steps up. This time, Quandre Diggs gets the sack, loss of 12 for Kansas. And then it is Jordan Hicks with the interception, runs it back for just a yard here in the fourth quarter. But it would set up Texas offense for a field goal from Nick Rose. He makes the 43-yard kick right through the uprights. Texas leads 16-0. Then later on a handoff, Jordan Hicks makes the tackle in the backfield for a loss for Kansas. And then it's Tyrone Swoops finding John Harris for the touchdown in the corner of the end zone. And Texas leads 23-0. They go on to win by that score. And John Harris has a touchdown in each of his first 4 games for the Horns.
All right, well, joining us tonight to talk football is analyst Tierra Neubaum. Tierra, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you guys doing?
Great. Well, guys, let's get right to it. Texas got their first Big 12 conference season against Kansas. In a press conference on Monday, Charlie Strong talked about the need for consistency from his offense. It's all about consistency. Offensively, we just have to continue to get better. Is a need for consistency your takeaway from the game, or was there something else? Tierra?
Well, I mean, Charlie said exactly what needs to happen. This offense needs to continue to become more consistent. But I think it was a good first Big 12 win for Charlie Strong. I mean, Kansas, yes, has lost 30 of their last 31 Big 12 games, but they didn't allow the Jayhawks to score. The defense only allowed Kansas 313 total yards, had 4 interceptions and 4 sacks. Also, Swoops looked pretty good with 2 touchdowns, and I think it helped build his confidence. I would like to see more from this offense, but I definitely think it was a good first Big 12 win under Charlie.
Well, Cooper, what do you think?
It was an ugly win, but a win is a win, and it was much needed for Texas, their first game in Big 12 play. The defense came up huge, getting their first shutout since 2012 versus New Mexico. And with tough opponents coming up, such as Baylor and OU, hopefully Texas can ride this defensive momentum into those games.
All right, guys, one of the main things people have been talking about is the struggle in the running game this season. Charlie Strong talked about how throwing the ball can pull pressure off the run game, which will enable us to run the ball. Did they manage to run the ball effectively against Kansas? Will this help them against Baylor? Tierra?
Well, I think the biggest problem for Texas at this point is the offense, especially the offensive line. And I mean, when you look at losing Espinoza, Ash, Harrison, and Nestel, there's going to be struggle on offense. Even still, I think they need to get more out of Gray and Brown, which will make third downs a little more manageable for Swoops, especially before Baylor this weekend and OU next weekend. Otherwise, things may not look so good for Texas. I'm sure that is the focus for these offensive coaches this week, and hopefully they can come up with a quick fix before Saturday. I also think Texas establishes a better run game, the passing game will open up a little more. To me, I think it's a rebuilding year for this Texas offense.
Yeah, I agree. I think they need to the offensive line is so inexperienced right now. They're just not creating holes for the running backs. I think it's more on the offensive line than on Jonathan Gray and Malcolm Brown. The running backs had 0 touchdowns in the game against Kansas this week, only 111 rushing yards. So hopefully the inexperienced line continues to improve throughout the season, but I think it could be a rough year for the Texas offense.
All right, quarterback Tyrone Stoop had his third career start, completing 19 out of 34 passes and 2 touchdowns. How do you think he has progressed so far?
Well, I think we've seen definite improvement from Swoops. You can tell his confidence levels are rising, and I think they need to continue to do that. He's not as quick as we expected, but he has surprised us with his accuracy. I think that he should keep looking to Harrison Shipley, and I think he is building some great chemistry with those receivers. I'd like to see, more from him, taking longer shots down the field, especially this weekend, to keep Baylor's defense on its toes.
Cooper?
I think Swoops continues to show improvement from week to week. His poise in the pocket is much better than it was in his debut versus BYU. He's becoming more of a dual threat quarterback, and as we saw that since he had both a running touchdown and a throwing touchdown in the game against Kansas. He's not really a speed demon, but he's pretty elusive and is able to keep plays alive, and I think we'll continue to see him improve and make strides as the season goes on.
All right, guys, well, those are some great points. Hopefully Texas will continue to improve in Big 12 play. Coming up after the break, we are talking soccer, volleyball, swimming, and cross country. Stay tuned for more College Press Box.
Welcome back, and thanks for tuning in to College Press Box. Now let's get into some soccer. So, Loana, I heard soccer had a pretty eventful weekend.
That's right. Texas soccer had 2 conference games over the weekend, winning against Tech but taking the loss against West Virginia. Let's take it to Mike A. Myers Stadium to check out the highlights. Texas going against Tech. Corner kick from Maddie Crabtree, header from Janie Becky. Abby Smith takes the save. Long shot by Texas, but Tech's goalie Lauren Watson comes up with the save. Long shot by Jasmine Hart. Lauren Watson gets another save. Allie Murphy with the corner kick, but Abby Smith denies Tech once again. Olivia Brooke finally gets a goal for Texas, her 6th of the season. Hart and Isabel Kerr with the assist. Texas wins 1-0 and is 1-0 in conference play. Reporter Taylor Smith went out to catch some of Texas versus Tech soccer action. Let's check it out.
This is Taylor Smith reporting from Mike A. Myers Stadium. Texas faced Texas Tech Friday evening. The game ended in a 0-0 tie. With 6 minutes into overtime, Texas scored the game-winning goal. I talked to Coach Kelly at the end of the game about the team's first conference win of the season in overtime.
I'm just proud of our resilience and the way that we battled, and they certainly created chances for themselves, and as did we, and just big time for Olivia Brooke. When we get to our level, you saw UCLA, you see the number 6 team in the country, it's a chess game.
I just think that we talked about it at halftime, and we decided we just need to go for it, and we need to take more shots, and we need to just take advantage of every opportunity, and I think we did that. So,
the top 2 teams in this conference last year were Texas Tech and West Virginia. So this is probably the hardest weekend that anyone in our conference is facing. So we knew that this was going to be a battle, and as you guys know, all season it's one day at a time for me. And
Texas faces their next conference game Sunday afternoon against West Virginia. For College Press Box, I'm Taylor Smith.
On Sunday, Texas played their second game of the weekend against number 17 West Virginia. It was a tough task for the Horns as the Mountaineers are the defending Big 12 champions. Despite 7 saves from goalkeeper Abby Smith, Mountaineer players Kelsey Maloney and Ashley Lawrence were each able to get a shot through the net. Even with 11 shots on goal, Texas was unable to score. The Horns fell 2-0 to West Virginia. The loss dropped Texas's record to 6-4-2 and 1-1 in Big 12 play.
Texas Volleyball defeated West Virginia in Big 12 opener, winning 3 sets. Texas is now number 2 in the nation and it's 9-0 overall. Wednesday's game marked the 4th consecutive year Texas has won a home opener. West Virginia took the first 2 sets, but Texas swept through after halftime, winning the last 3. Hayler Eckerman led Texas with 12 kills and 9 digs. Kat Bell and sophomore Chiaka Ogbagu led the Longhorns in blocks with 8 apiece. Bell also finished with 8 kills, 6 digs. Texas will return to Gregory Gym to host Iowa State on Wednesday, October 1st.
On Friday, the Texas swim team had their orange versus white meet at the Lee and Joe Jamal Swimming Center. The scrimmage had 15 total events, starting with the 100-yard backstroke and ending with the 400-yard freestyle relay. In the 200-yard freestyle, 19-year-old Brett Ringgold put up an impressive time of 19.81 seconds. The match ended with an orange victory over the white team, 125 points to 120.
The Longhorns men and women's cross-country team traveled to Minneapolis, Minnesota to compete in the Roy Gregg Invitational last weekend. The men's team finished 6th, while the women's team had 22nd place. Senior Craig Lutz led the team and was able to finish 2nd in the 8K race. Sophomore Sandy Raines was first finisher for Texas, taking 69th.
Stay tuned as we will discuss some other Big 12 football games from this weekend and preview Texas's upcoming game against Baylor.
Welcome back to College Press Box. Tierra Neubaum is back with us, ready to talk NCAA football.
In addition to the Texas win over Kansas, there were some other major conference games going on in the Big 12 this past weekend.
That's right. Let's start off with the Texas Tech and Oklahoma State game. What did you guys think were some of the high notes? Tierra, let's start with you.
Well, I think offensively both teams did well. It was a high-scoring game. Both quarterbacks had a combined total yards of over 1,000 and a combined 9 touchdowns. Texas Tech quarterback Davis Webb attempted 44 passes in just the first half. It was a fun game to watch, but as for today, I don't think Texas could match up to either of these teams offensively.
I agree. It was an interesting game to watch. It was a true shootout with tons of offense and big plays. Each starting quarterback threw 4 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, so there's a constant action. It would have been a huge win for Tech, but OSU took care of business at home.
Saturday's Kansas State took down UTEP. What did you guys think helped Kansas to achieve this, and what were the Miners lacking in this game?
Well, I think Kansas State was very effective in stopping the run game. They forced UTEP to 3 and outs in the first 5 possessions. UTEP didn't pick up a first down until 5 minutes before halftime. So Kansas State defense was looking very strong. I think they will beat Iowa State next week, and that they are a team to keep your eye on in the Big 12.
Kansas State is sneakily a very good football team, and they almost beat Auburn last week. So they responded in a big way here against the Miners. The running game of Kansas State was impressive, as 4 players combined for 6 rushing touchdowns. And UTEP's defense, they just let them down. They just don't have the overall talent to be competitive with a team like Kansas State.
All right, and The Baylor Bears added another win to their season, defeating Iowa State. What helped Baylor stay ahead of the Cyclones?
Well, I think that the final score being 49-28 shows that Baylor's not going to be blowing out every team every weekend, but they do lead the nation in points scored per game. I think that Iowa State played fairly well, but their quarterback couldn't keep up with Bryce Petty. I know that after the game, the head coach of the Cyclones said that Bryce Petty is the best player in college football. I think that the Baylor offense has been looking good and will look good for the rest of the season.
The Bears offense under coach Art Briles continues to dominate defenses. Quarterback Bryce Petty is an early Heisman candidate, and on top of that, the running game of the Bears scored 6 touchdowns against Iowa State. So this offense is going to be tough to stop for anyone, and Iowa State's defense has already given up 30-plus points in 3 of their 4 games, so the Baylor offense just had a field day with them.
All right, this Saturday, Texas will be taking on Baylor. What will the Horns have to work on, and who do you guys think will take the win?
Well, there's going to be no room for Texas to make any small errors this weekend. They're going to have to continue to be, the defense is going to have to continue to be the stronghold for this Texas team, especially when going up a Heisman candidate QB. Texas defense has got to limit Baylor and Petty on offense and continue with the interceptions. As for special teams, if they can continue to get those big punt returns, gain positive field position, it will make things easier for Swoops. And I think that he just needs to keep up the confidence in Texas offense. Hopefully has improved their run game by then. My prediction is going to be 42-14 Baylor.
All right, thank you, Tierra and Cooper, for giving us an outlook on NCAA and Saturday's game against Baylor. After the break, we will take a look at how former Longhorns are doing in the NFL and what is happening this week in Texas sports. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back to College Press Box. Texas senior Jordan Hicks was named the Big 12 Conference Defensive Player of the Week. The league announced Monday. This honor comes after Hicks's huge game against Kansas. The senior completed 15 tackles and also made an interception.
All right, let's take a look on what's going on this week for the Longhorns. Tuesday through Sunday, men's and women's tennis at ITA All-American Championship. Wednesday, volleyball versus Iowa State at 7 p.m. on the Longhorn Network. Friday, soccer at Iowa State at 7 p.m. and softball versus McLennan Community College at 7 p.m.
Saturday, Texas football takes on Baylor at 2:30, and you can watch that one on ABC. And then the women's golf team is playing in the Schooner Fall Classic on Saturday and Sunday, October 4th and 5th. And then Sunday, October 5th, Texas volleyball takes on Kansas at 1 p.m. You can catch that one on Fox Sports Net.
All right, and Mac Brown's brother is making headlines and not in a good way. Coach Watson Brown has set the record for the most losses in college football history. Cooper, what are your thoughts about Watson Brown's record loss of 200 losses?
I mean, it's not a record you'd ever want to have, but you got to give it to Watson for having the longevity to make it that far with losing so many games. So I respect that. Got to support Mac Brown's brother.
All right, and what do you think Saturday's score will be for Texas against Baylor?
I think Texas defense will keep it competitive, but in the end, Baylor's offense will prove to be too much and they'll pull away. So I say Baylor wins 31-20, but I think the Horns have a chance, and there's still 7,000 tickets remaining for this game, so if Horns fans want to come out and support, there are tickets available. What do you think, Loana?
I'm just going to stay optimistic and say Texas is going to win. It won't be a super high score, but it will be a win. All right, and that is all the time we have for tonight. Thanks for tuning in to College Press Box. You can follow us on Twitter at College Press Box, and you can catch us every Monday night right here at TSTV at 9:30. And for some of the best sports debates in the 40 acres, tune into College Crossfire every Wednesday at 9:30. You can follow them at College Xfire. From everyone here in the studio, Master Control, Cooper, and myself, have a great night.